The human brain is a very paradoxical thing. On the one hand, it does everything it can to stop us from growing in the moment under the guise of fight or flight. But after that moment happened, in some cases, it then makes its very self feel miserable. What I mean by this, your brain is just there for you to survive in the moment. It cannot tell the difference between a Rottweiler or a angry tiger chasing you versus talking to a beautiful girl or starting a new job. All it knows is there's something that's not right, there's something that shouldn't be there, and it does everything in its power. Sweaty palms, you don't think clearly. When you're talking to that girl, you stumble, fumble, bumble over your words. It's telling you to get out of there. After you have a conversation with that beautiful girl, then you tell yourself, I look so stupid. I blushed, I fumbled over my words, I just didn't look good. But in the moment, you're not thinking that. You're just thinking, I gotta get away, I gotta get away, I gotta get away. Similar to running away from a tiger or an angry Rottweiler. It's the same thing pertaining to changes. When you begin a new job, when you get into a new relationship, you have a certain amount of stress. But the great thing about that is the very thing that causes your brain to do that can also cause your brain to help you thrive. What I mean by that? Well, think about this. Since our brains are trying to help us live, that means that humans are adapters. Despite 99.9% of species that have ever walked the earth dying off, humans have still been able to survive at the top of the food chain. One of the reasons is because we are adapters. We adapted from a hunter-gatherer society to little small towns and villages living off the land. In 1900, you had the Industrial Revolution. And from that, you then had a more manufacturing society. And now we're more technological and informative society. The point is, humans have always been able to innovate. They've always been able to adapt. It's like that on a micro level as well. Think about the first day you started your job. You probably hated it. The first week, it usually takes at least a month for you to get used to your surroundings. I remember a few years ago when I was working as a dishwasher in a restaurant. It was one of my first jobs that I ever had. The first month or so, I really hated it because I wasn't familiar with my surroundings. But once I was there for about 4 or 5 months, I then thought it was all right. I mean, I didn't love it, but instead of being like, oh, I got to go to work and dreading it the night before and everything like that, it was just kind of like, okay, I got to go to work. Same thing with exercise. Think about it. You tell yourself, yeah, I want to start exercising. I want to start dieting. I want to start getting into better shape. Then your brain creates every excuse because it doesn't want you to feel pain in the moment. Your brain wants you to avoid pain. It can't differentiate long-term pain like bad health. The leading cause of death in America is heart disease. What leads to heart disease in a lot of cases is obesity. What leads to obesity is lack of exercise. It's a chain reaction. So while you might exercise, in the moment you'll feel pain when you're lifting the weights or you're jogging up a hill, your brain doesn't want you to have to feel that pain, but it can't differentiate between this pain or that pain. But once you exercise for a long time, I've been exercising for almost 2 years now, it's just part of your routine. Your brain no longer dreads it, you no longer worry about it. I've also heard people talk about this when it pertains to public speaking. Politicians, pastors, business people, they've done it so much that it no longer bothers them. It just is part of their routine. That's what your brain wants to do. It wants to create a pattern and it wants to create a routine. Similarly, you ever have those days where you just don't feel like doing anything? Now, let me preface, I understand if you're working 5 days and you're working 40 hours and on a Saturday, you want to do something relaxing like binge watch Netflix or play video games. I understand that. But in general, if that's all you do all the time, you aren't going to feel productive. You ever have those days where you say, I need to get this done, I need to get my car washed, I'm going to go on a jog, I'm going to try to read a chapter of this book, whatever. But instead of doing all that, you then binge watch Stranger Things. You then start to play Fortnite. In the moment, you're having fun. In the moment, you're enjoying it. But later on, once that moment passes, then you feel miserable. You're like, I did not get done what I needed to get done today. Versus the feeling you have, one of the best rushes you get is after hard work, after exercise, after a jog, the runner's high. But on the same token, the same feeling you get after a hard day's work. After you've worked your full shift, you come home, you take your shoes off, you sit down, that satisfaction, that good feeling that you feel after a hard day's work is because your brain wants us to be productive after it happens. But in the moment, it's telling you, don't do this, don't do this. So it's very paradoxical. That's why it's all about training your brain to get over that initial hump. If you can get over the initial hump in a lot of cases, most people don't want to deal with pain. That's why a lot of people don't exercise. That's why a lot of people don't talk to attractive women. That's why a lot of people don't take risks. They're afraid in that initial moment to have to go through a lot of pain. And I understand it, it's not a good experience. But if you can overcome that initial hurdle, then things become a lot easier. Things slow down.